But let's talk now about the BBC, because quite frankly, the BBC is back in the news constantly, every single week. I don't know how things keep going from bad to worse. We've got Hugh Edwards being told to stop talking to various different women 3 years ago. We've now got an inquiry that's been launched, apparently, to see whether the BBC should receive yet more money from the government, i.e. you and I, the taxpayer, to help project what they call UK's values across the world. This is the World Service we're talking about. They received more than £100 million in funding from the Foreign Office. Tim Davie, the Director General, has warned the service needs help. Now, actually, you might be surprised to hear this. I don't think the World Service is a bad thing. The World Service actually is one part of the BBC that probably works. But what we don't need is a load of rubbish about the BBC's diversity campaigns going out around the world. So let's find out from Roger Bolton, former BBC presenter and podcast host, what this is all about. Roger, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the Home of Common Sense. Welcome to Morning Glory with Mike Graham.
Good morning. May I just say that, apart from common sense, that introduction was actually rubbish about the BBC. And I know you like people to speak frankly. I thought you'd like to know that's what I thought.
Which bit of it did you think was rubbish?
Well, your general arguments about the BBC, whatever. But anyway...
No, sorry. You don't get away with but anyway. No, hang on, Roger. You don't get away with but anyway. If you want to say... If you want to tell me it's rubbish... No, hang on. You want to tell me it's rubbish, tell me which bit of it was rubbish.
Right. You get away with introductions which to a complicated subject about the BBC World Service, about the British government's desire for generations to transmit news across the world. It is a really serious issue about projecting our value, our power, and you do an introduction which manages to get Hugh Edwards into it.
Well, Hugh Edwards worked for the BBC until last week, didn't he?
Yes, so this is about the World Service.
What do you mean managed to get Hugh Edwards into it? Are you going to tell... Hang on.
Serious question,
Roger,
about whether or not you and the British government want to have a service, the World Service, which transmits our values, our belief in liberal democracy across the world or not. It's for Parliament to decide that. Now, the problem...
Well, hang on a second, Roger. Before you go any further, you still haven't told me which bit of what I said was rubbish. Presumably you don't mean the bit where I said, I actually think the World Service does a pretty good job. That wasn't rubbish, was it?
No, that part wasn't rubbish.
OK. So which part was rubbish, then?
Why, in a discussion about the future of the World Service, which is a serious issue, do you actually throw in the introduction anything you like to say about the BBC and your view about value to money?
Well, because if Hugh Edwards is a recognition of the values of the BBC, I'm afraid I don't think we want to spread that to Djibouti or anywhere else that's been taken over by China.
As you well know, Hugh Edwards has resigned from the BBC, had a serious mental breakdown.
Why are you talking about it?
Because you did so in your introduction.
No, I didn't. I mentioned him as part of the background to the BBC's funding problem, because we paid this man a great deal of money when he didn't do anything for it.
This is different from the World Service. Should we talk about the World Service?
Yeah, but you understand the word context, Roger, don't you?
I do indeed.
So when we talk about the BBC is not a series of compartmentalised little pods where one thing doesn't take any reference to point to another, right?
It does. Briefly explain this.
We're out of time already. Oh, we're out of time. Sorry, Roger. Listen, I'm terribly sorry. We've got to go. You wasted all that time talking about Hugh Edwards instead of the values of the BBC. What a complete plonker. Never mind.